Okay, good afternoon. For those in attendance and those that are watching us live stream, this is workshop number 3. Our special workshop meeting tonight, and we really have a great lineup. We've got our new finance director is going to come in and give us some recommendations. We're going to talk about and look at professional services and all the town contracts, review of staff positions, and then a budget recap if we have enough time before 7 tonight. If not, we'll recess, do our regular meeting at 7, and then come back. But this just goes to show, before I open it up and call the meeting to order, how determined this board is to getting this budget, this $22.5 million proposed budget, getting it right. We've even agreed that if we need to, we will meet every Monday night of this month until we get it right. And I wanted everybody to know that's our part. Now, we may not have to. We may get everything right before the end of the month, but being that this is the first night of June, that's our mission, and we're going to do it. And we'll call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Sorry about that. Turn it off.
That's a $45. $45. Okay. Approval of the agenda. Is any additions or deletions?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. All in favor? Seeing none opposed, motion carries. Okay. First up is item number 2, discussion of proposed FY 26-27 budget, and our finance director recommendations is item A. No attachments, although the board has handouts. I don't know where in the heck mine are. They may be down in here. They're not over there. Brittany, we welcome you.
Thank you. So good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, and to our board, our commissioners. Tonight's presentation is for me to go through the 2026 budget review, and I appreciate the recommendation for me to give some type of feedback on it, even though it wasn't the budget that I prepared. The previous finance director, I still feel like did a sufficient job to present the budget as requested, which didn't include a tax increase, but I want to make sure that we all understand what that means. So is this budget balanced? Yes. Are there some risks that still remain? Yes. So we want to ensure not only this budget year that we can pass a solid, good budget, but budget years extend beyond the year that you're actually budgeting for. So we call it like sustainability. So yes, we can pass this budget, but if there's any area of weakness or anything that we have a concern, we can pat it on the back now, but it'll start coughing about 2 years, you know? So I want to make sure we understand what's in that budget today, and then we're going to look at this, go through this presentation. So we're going to review the proposed budget for 26-27. I'm going to discuss some structural budget considerations. We're going to review the reserve and our corrective actions, evaluate some sustainability options, and then present some recommendations. So this is the budget that is presented to you as of now that we've been working on. The total budget is $22.5 million. The current tax rate, the 4.8, well, 48 cent, the proposed tax rate. There's no tax rate increase in the budget that you guys have now. The funding source includes a one-time transfer of ARPA funding for $653,000, our fund balance appropriation of $423,000, a proposed merit increase for staff at 2.5%, and a proposed COLA of 1.5%. Also helping fund that is, you see a little bit over $450,000 of frozen positions. So this slide is going to cover what we had to cut in order to get this budget balanced as you have received it. So we received, administration received over $2 million in requests from departments for needs for the 26-27 budget year. And of that, we have recommended $125,000 of that. So 1.9 million proposed, I guess, costs from the departments was not recommended in this budget. And as you can see, I broke it down here, what those requests were, and then how much of that was actually funded. This is just a pie chart to kind of show where the town's funding sources come from. As you can see, nearly half of our funding sources come from ad valorem taxes. We have sales tax, other tax, intergovernmental tax, and public safety revenue. So we have different funding streams of revenue, but you can see almost 50% of our budget is funded alone simply by ad valorem taxes. So where are we now? And this is as of not 26-27 yet. We're still looking at 25-26. So this budget year ending coming up now in June 30. So our approved budget was the 22.2 million. We've amended that to 22.6, which includes we've had budget amendments to the sum of about 350,000. In regards to expenditures, I refreshed this today, so we've expended a little bit over 20 million, which means to get us to June 30, we have about 1.7 million left. So going back real quick, because I skipped over a part, about the 2 million that was proposed, and then what we've actually recommended. So the percentage is, so it says only 1 out of every $16 requested was funded. So we scraped the budget as much as we could, but I wanted to cover real quick what that looks like. And I'm gonna use fleet maintenance as one of the examples. So I jumped ahead, let me see. How do I go back? Oh, I got it. So I wanted to use fleet maintenance as an example. So I prepared, because in the fleet maintenance budget, we had some departments that they may have needed a new vehicle. They need new trucks, cars, or whatever. So as I promised when I first came in and gave my recommendations that I was gonna do a full fixed asset review to see what inventory the town has. So on paper, I was able to do that as of June 30 of 25, because we're still adding a fleet that have came in like in 2026. So I feel like the best analysis could have been done based on the final end results of last year's fixed asset report. So from that, these are just a few of my observations. So there's numerous vehicles that exceed the recommended replacement cycles. Multiple vehicles are fully depreciated, but yet they remain operational because we don't have any other fleet. The maintenance costs, if you look in the budget, I remember someone asked, why are the maintenance costs so high? Well, this is why maintenance costs in the budget is so high. So we've deferred replacement of key vehicles that has now, you see the impact in the maintenance to keep those vehicles on the road. So we can come back to some type of funding strategy or something that we can have for that. You know, we've been using enterprise to help offset some of that cost, but you know, even with that, that cost is pretty heavy in the budget as well, but that's because we're leasing a pretty decent amount of vehicles. So I'm gonna pivot real quick to what our focus should be. So we have, we received 21 recommendations from the state auditor's office as a result of the audit report. I won't read all of them because this isn't all of them. I only focused on the ones that had some type of financial impact, because for me as the finance director, these are the things that I want to make sure that we're doing. This slide highlights the ones that I feel like are key, and then there's some more in the next slide. The first recommendation was to establish thresholds for our minimum unrestricted reserve fund balances. Develop a target plan to restore the unrestricted fund reserves lost in 2025. Limit reserve fund usage to budget-approved capital projects. Budgets for new operational costs in the next fiscal year, and delay spending until funds are available. The board should receive a financial analysis of all mid-year expenditures to understand their impact on annual reserves before approving budget amendments. And this is recommendation 13 through 18. The town board should ensure that it complies with approving budget amendments, talking about the receipting and accounting of money following the budget ordinances, only doing the proper amendments as they see necessary, covering the risk of over expenditure of travel, and developing some type of travel reimbursement plan for the city to move forward. So the targeted discussion. So we have focused, or the staff has answered questions about adding expenditures. We've discussed adding new positions, unfreezing positions, modifying employee benefits, expanding operation, salary grade increases, while the town still has some unresolved issues that I think we should approach before considering, according to the OSA recommendations, adding any additional costs to this budget. Number one being reserving our general fund, creating a structural budget. I'm using ARPA dependency as one of the weaknesses because ARPA is a one-time funding, so you will not have that $653,000 to fund the next fiscal year's budget. And remaining compliant with the policy recommendations as OSA provided. So my first recommendation is something that I feel like we can do in this fiscal year, and it's very common. We have a budget that ends June 30, 2026, but that doesn't mean that we have to expend everything that we have in that budget for 2026. So I'm asking that we try to maximize our year-end carry forward to improve our fund balance. So even if it's saving $100,000 or $200,000, as long as we do not overcommit what we have been budgeted for to end June 30, 2026. And that's with the understanding, of course, I told you guys we have earlier in the presentation about $1.7 million left to get us through these next 30 days. So that's considering that we still have payroll to pay, utilities to end the month, any debt, paying out encumbrances and contracts, insurance. So there are some things that we still have to pay from that 1.7, but that doesn't mean that everything that's remaining in that 1.7 has to be spent. So I'm looking at preserving every dollar that the town may need so we can roll any of that leftover, quote unquote, into the next fiscal year to help kind of escalate building up that reserve balance. It's a little touchy, but we have merit and COLA raises. So this is one of the first things you look at if we're straining to balance our budget. The town gives out merit and COLA. Right now, the current budget suggests a 1.5% COLA and a 2.5% merit. Is there any cost savings there if we play with those percentages to see going up or down, or what it looks like navigating through the percentage of merit and COLA? It may save a decent amount, but again, this is something that's just short term to get us through the year. This is one of my key concerns, as I stated, is eliminating the use of one-time funding. So our reliance to balance the budget on ARPA, we can no longer depend on. So that's why I'm saying that we have to look outside of balancing just the budget that we have today, but looking at how we're going to go into 27, 28 without any type of one-time funding because it's going to expire. We've already covered this a little bit throughout the emails about moving the street salaries back to the general fund. So I wanted to put a price on it. So we're looking at trying to cover about $240K of salary and benefits to move that were split, where we split some positions from streets and stormwater and put them into Powell bill to relieve the general fund. But due to some compliance and things like that, we're suggesting that we really put them back just to make sure that we're doing like our best practice. And this was also a recommendation from our prior finance director. So fund balance usage. The fund balance appropriation should be limited to, according to our corrective action, 3% of your budget. So, 3% of the unrestricted fund reserve balance. I wanted to make sure everybody kind of understood what the purpose of a general fund reserve is. So when you tap into your general fund, it should be for only specific purposes. You shouldn't tap into your reserves to balance your annual operating expenditures. Reserves are typically used for one-time capital projects, something that doesn't create some type of operational expense. So typically, when you have to tap into your fund balance reserve, is for something that you can get it done, pay it one time, and then that's it. Your reserves aren't intended to be used to balance your budget year after year after year. I'm also requesting that we do an additional expenditure review, which we're kind of starting tonight with reviewing all of our contracts. So in order for us to do that and go into this next segment, I built something in here to kind of show us where, when it comes to costs, how we look across the town in regards to departments. So we're gonna look at some of the largest budget drivers and then some of our major operational cost areas. Just some of the key observations is personnel costs, of course, they are top heavy, they dominate the majority of the budget, just salary and fringes. The police department has one of the largest budgets here compared with fire, and that's just because it's a public safety component. Contracted services are significant, and we've already seen that we have high vehicle and fleet maintenance costs. So public safety and our personnel cost concentration. So the general fund budget as presented now is heavily concentrated in these areas. Of course, our primary concern is public safety. That's where a majority of our budget goes. So public safety, personnel, benefits, fleet replacement, and then contracted services. Personnel and benefit expenditures alone represent 66% of the general fund budget. Public safety operations together covers 53% of the general fund's budget. So you're like, what does this mean? It means that majority of our budget is in a capacity that if we have to make cuts or any type of reducing what they've requested, it could impact core operations of the town. So the first expenditure account review I put on here for you guys is the combined recommended budget for travel and training and department supplies equals about $780K. So we're looking at contracted services tonight, but maybe next Monday we can make a plan, like let's see what we can do in travel and training. We've already made it where travel is certification. That's literally the only reason, but we want to make it where it's pre-approved. So we want to be able to pre-approve the travel beforehand. So maybe if you, are you up for recertification? Just creating some additional questions to see if we can help bring that cost down a little bit. And again, this is a short-term spending goal. Department supplies. How much are we underutilizing? Do we need more paper? Are we stocked on paper? Just small things like that can actually make a difference when it comes to if you have travel and training and department supplies that equal almost, clearly almost $800,000. There has to be something there that we can identify where we can possibly cut back. So this is our combined budget for contracts and professional services. And that's what we're going to go into a little bit later. But these are all of the categories and how much contracts are in each department segment. So you can see our public safety contracts, our sanitation contracts, our administrative and professional contracts, facility and maintenance, and then our IT and technology. So contracts and professional services equates to about $2.2 million of the budget. I'm not saying that we need to eliminate town events. I'm asking that we review town events to see if we can accomplish some of those things. So if it's a cost to the town in this event, how is attendance? Do we really need it? Is it something that it can generate its own revenue? So just looking at one of those approaches to see, do we really need some of these maybe celebrations or events that actually cost the town to put on or host? Reviewing our committee budgets. So right now our committee budgets are at $5,000 per committee. Just within the last few months of me seeing, I'm seeing that it's kind of a rush at the end of the year to spend it. So I'm asking, did you really need it? Because you've kind of waited to the last few months of the year to spend it. So reviewing the committee budgets, is that something that we could not eliminate, but at least suspend to see if we can create an approach of maybe where there's a combined amount versus maybe an individual committee amount, and maybe projects can be submitted with cost, and then we approve from maybe a one line item budget versus every committee having its own $5,000. So, this is one of my recommendations, and this is, because I feel like this is something that the town could use to give us an additional layer of transparency and restoring some public trust. A lot of municipalities have an independent CPA firm that provides an additional oversight to your finance and your core operations. So if we were able to find it in the budget that we could have some type of independent CPA to just ensure that we're on the right track with our compliance and restoring our corrective action, and are we approaching the right way to have our general fund reserves, somebody to give us some type of guidance when it comes to implementing some things that we know we have to change to get the town moving forward as a result of the OSA audits. So we just went through some of the components of additional reviews that we could go through, and I attached just a range of what the cost savings could look like. It's not, of course, a definite, but these are just some ranges of what could we possibly save, or how much are we looking at if we dig into a little bit more detail when it comes to looking at these things. So with the committees, I think it's $5,000 a committee. So if we look at adjusting the committee budgets, we know at the most that we could save would be $40,000. With the events, some of the events range from, I think maybe the highest is probably about $50,000, $60,000. So looking at how much we could save as a town if we look at some of these areas to see if there's additional cuts that we would have to do. So we all understand that the state auditor report, we have recommendations and we also have a corrective action. So these are my targets as recommended by the state auditor, that we initially develop a plan to replenish our reserve, restore our unrestricted fund reserve balances, limit reserve usage primarily to just capital projects and not operational, budgeting operational expenditures in the year that they occur, and delaying spending to essential activities only. So these are the concerns that I have just right now coming in, looking at just the budget process, the OSA recommendations, and then the things that we put in place now and how they're kind of measuring up since we've implemented like the fund balance policy and the corrective action that was submitted to OSA. So our reserve levels still remain below our policy target. So we created a policy of our accessible fund balance saying that we wanted a minimum target of at least 25% of our expenditures. The total fund balance, our target was at least 40% of our expenditures, and we currently do not meet either of those objectives. And we're still trying to develop an approach to rebuild that 1.2 million of reserves that was found from the OSA audit. So we still need to get a plan to rebuild that officially as well, where we're all in agreement to how we're going to come back up with that funding as well. So we've already discussed that the one-time funding sources are ending, and in this case is ARPA. So we just won't have those funds moving forward to use to balance the budgets. So the expenditures review that we covered, the contracts, the professional services, there are some things, while there is a heavy cost associated to them, there's also a heavy reason. So our police operations and our fire operations it's approximately what 2/3 of our budget we commit to public safety. Well, actually half of our general fund expenditures are committed to public safety. So when we talk about cutting additional expenditures, and we've already cut over $2 million, I guess we have to figure out an approach of how we want to do that. So as a result, we're temporarily looking at cutting committee budgets, cutting travel, reducing office supplies, reducing training, and cutting other discretionary spending. But does that materially solve the large problem that we have as a town when it comes to sustaining our financial needs? So just to show what happens if we continue on this cycle. So this is kind of what we look like now. We're having declining reserve levels. We're currently relying on one-time funding sources. We're using fund balance for the operations of the town. We've delayed a plan to reserve and restore our fund balance. We have growing operational costs, and we have ongoing capital and infrastructure needs. So one of those alone, the town probably could deal with. However, all of those happening all together is creating a lot of long-term pressure, which is now we're seeing how we can efficiently balance this budget without the creative accounting. So what the futurists look like, I told you my main goal is to rebuild this fund balance reserve. And that's because I don't think a lot of people understand what the fund balance reserves mean and why it's called a reserve for like a specific reason. So you're really only supposed to tap into it when you really, really have a need. So my concern is these needs that actually meet the use of pulling from fund balance, if we're pulling from it to continue on with the regular operations of the town and it's being depleted, when these things happen, what are we going to do with a low level of the reserves if we have a natural disaster or an emergency or some type of major failure that we didn't plan for, and then we look at a risk of not having those reserves there to use them for what they were intentionally designated for. So this is just some things for the boards to consider. While we may temporarily make decisions now, in the long term, these are some of the things. Actually, I think the board now, you guys are seeing some of these things when you have to start making tough decisions to realize what are we going to do to help balance this budget. So we're looking at, is it possible that we have to do staff reductions? We're continuing delay maintenance. We've deferred equipment replacement. We're looking at reducing our programs, and all of this in return reduces our service levels to the town in some type of way. Capital infrastructure backlog, so deferring our capital projects and deferring our departments from doing maintenance on the roads, doing maintenance on their facilities and their equipments. That stuff will eventually catch up on you, and the longer you wait it out, the longer the costs increase. So we've had the discussion plenty of times about the tax increase. Nobody wants the tax increase. Nobody wants to propose it. And that's not what I'm here to do today. I'm just letting you know that from where we look at now, you don't have to do a tax increase today. You don't have to do one next year, but there's going to come a time that you're going to have to look at adjusting your revenues, one of your biggest one being ad valorem taxes, to help relieve some of the strain that we have on our general fund and putting out those reserves. So this is just what the tax looks like when it comes to a 1 cent all the way down to a 6 cent. A 1 cent tax would help minimally with restoring the use of one-time funding. It provides minimal funding for unforeseen operational expenditures, but it does help generate maybe a portion of that $240,000 that we need to offset the Powell bill that we want to put back into the general fund. A 2% tax, and I'm not going to go through all of them, I just went from 1 to 3. A 2% tax would bring in $418,000, and it will provide some funding relief to operational stability, offset some of the compensation, still leave some dependency on the ARPA, because ARPA, like I said, is $653, and a 2 cent would only bring in $418. But even though we could still have some room there to relieve the general fund if we decide to move those positions back to the general fund from Powell bill. A 3% tax would generate around $627,000. It would get us close to eliminating that deficiency of depending on the one-time funding for ARPA, and it would help us improve some of these or have the ability to start working our way through some of these recommendations through OSA. And I feel like it would prepare us for the future budget years to come. So in closing, and I'm actually about to read now because I prepared a little statement. So tonight's presentation wasn't intended to focus on a single budget line item or a single department or a single fiscal year. The purpose was to provide a realistic assessment of where the town stands financially as of today, the challenges that may lie ahead, and the decisions that will ultimately determine our long-term financial stability of the town. The budget before you is balanced. However, the larger question is whether it is sustainable. Through the presentation, we have discussed several important realities. The town has received recommendations from OSA that require action. The town must rebuild reserves that were previously utilized. One-time funding sources such as ARPA will not be available in future funding years. A significant portion of expenditures support public safety, sanitation, street, and infrastructure. And those budgets have been cut from a budgeted request of $2 million down to barely $125,000. Much of the town's vehicle fleet and equipment inventory is aging and has zero value, creating future capital and maintenance pressures for our departments and our department heads. Administration has already reduced approximately $2 million in departmental requests before presenting you the budget today. So we have already cut at least $1.9 to $2 million from the budget before it was presentation. Small reductions alone will not resolve long-term structural challenges. The decision before the board today, of course, we know they are not easy, and nor really should they be. Every decision revolves trade-offs between service levels, affordability, infrastructure needs, employee retention, financial sustainability, and the expectations of our citizens. My responsibility as the finance director is not to advocate for a particular outcome, but to ensure that the board has the financial information necessary to make the best informed decision. In my professional opinion, the greatest risk facing the town today is not where we stand as of now. The greatest risk is delaying a corrective action that could have underlying financial pressures that will continue to grow. At least now we still have options. We have the opportunity to implement some of the recommendations that have been provided. We have several budget sessions scheduled to where citizens can ask questions, you guys can ask questions. I'm available 5 days a week here in case, emails or if anybody has questions that they can come see me. And I hope that today I've given you a nice oversight so you guys will be able to make a sound decision when it comes to passing a board. So I appreciate your time, your engagement, and your commitment to having a thorough budget process. And I will open up the floor at this time for any questions.
Brittany, before we get to those, I want to thank you for a well-researched and detailed presentation. We probably should have had something like this on April 30th. But I probably need to stop at that point because you're right. It's where we go from here. It's not so much about how we got here. We are here. But it's the decisions that we make now that will affect future budgets. There's going to have to be some hard decisions made. There really are. But I'll ask the board individually if there's any questions before you get to item B, which is professional services and contracts. I ask that each board member please be respectful of the other board member. Let's practice civility, and I will recognize you if you want to speak. Anybody wants to go first? Commissioner Hamilton.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I just have a couple questions for now anyway.
Sure.
I think one of the big issues that the auditor talked about was the budget requests. And I do remember that a lot of the budget requests that were received, they had said that they couldn't budget them in the previous year. I don't think there was a reason why. But will that stop? I mean, unless it's an emergency or something?
So budget amendments, and from what I can see so far, budget amendments are done when you don't have enough of the budget available to make whatever purchase it is that the department has. And sometimes that issue starts here. So if I pass a budget, or if we pass a budget for $50,000 for contracted services, but we know just because we had to cut expenditures that contract is $75,000, I mean, the other 25 has to come from somewhere. You're in a contractual obligation to pay this company their money. So I don't think the budget amendments necessarily are a bad thing. OSA recommended that we make sound decisions, which initially starts at the budget process. For one, we have to budget enough. So we have to budget enough to where department heads won't have to, like, I guess, underestimate what their budgets are just to get it to go through approval, because once the actual costs start coming in, that's when you guys see the budget amendments. And a budget amendment means that it's coming out of, so that means you've already expended, well, you didn't expend it, but you're pulling out of your general fund to cover that balance. So you're pulling out of your reserves to cover that balance. That's why it's called a budget amendment, because they're amending the amount that was officially approved by the board. So that's why it has to come back to you for approval.
And if I can add to that, it's probably not to go to Brittany, probably to any of the previous board members. In terms of OSA, those budget amendments were tied to things that were not, the board was not aware of at the time of the previous budget. Those were mid-year activities, so I think it would have been difficult for our board to not do those activities without the budget amendments, because at the time that we adopted the budget for this current, for that fiscal year prior to, those activities or those issues hadn't presented themselves.
And you had no way to plan for it, so you couldn't have budgeted for it.
I'm not done yet.
Right. And I was gonna, on, they talking about budget amendment, if you don't mind.
Go ahead, I guess.
If you don't mind. Go ahead. To add to budget amendments.
Then I'll go
Yeah,
back.
she's right to you. We had to do several budget amendments because of the building over there, because there was some things was not in compliance. And it was discovered after they moved in, and that created a plethora of budget amendments. I just want to add that. That's it.
Well, most of the ones I was talking about were from the SROs and things of that nature. And those were a significant amount of them that the board did not know about at the time that we were actually, that we had actually previously adopted the budget.
Right, I understand things that happen that you don't have any control over, I understand that. But my thought process was, when they did the budget request or amendment, they knew that they wouldn't have the funding until they had the new budget and had the funds to fund that project. So that's kind of where I thought they were going with that.
Okay.
Okay, my second question is delay spending until funding is available. What all does that include? Does that include capital projects? What does that include? Things that happen, just for example, the $430,000 for the walking path that came up. Now, they did the estimate on it. So are they able to do estimates to get the funding to actually do the project? I don't understand.
So the $430,000, remember, that's a different funding source. So that was, that came from stormwater. So that didn't come out of your general fund reserve.
But just things in general, I don't understand exactly what they mean. Delay spending for what exactly?
So you can delay spending in a few ways. One of them is understanding like our cash flow, right? So we budget this 22 million, but this 22 million comes in throughout the year. So we don't have the 22 million just sitting right now. We have to collect the ad valorem taxes. We have to get all these revenues that we've budgeted like in before we can spend them. So some of those things we may have to put off and delay until we actually have enough in our budget and in like our cash flow to actually pay some of these things. And I haven't seen a situation yet where I feel like we could delay spending. So that's kind of a blanket statement. But I took it as if, like if we're talking about making cuts, but then the next conversation is about salary increases, we can delay salary increases or salary grade increases.
So I was kind of looking for examples. So if they're going to delay that kind of spending, where does it stop before it gets to the board?
What do you mean?
Before it comes to the board for approval, it's got to be started and stopped somewhere, or is it?
For delayed spending? Yes. I don't think, I mean, other than, I guess, the board threshold, whatever you're typically here to approve, but I don't think we've gotten to a point yet that I feel like we've had to, like, delay or suspend spending.
Okay. I'm just kind of looking ahead to see if something would happen somebody needed something, where would it stop?
Oh, okay.
Talk to us for approval.
So right now, doing the, where we're looking at making purchases of only essential things, for us, that starts in your department. We allow our department heads that autonomy to determine, do we really need this right now? For example, our accounting system, our requisition approval goes from the employee who placed the order to their supervisor, then to finance for me to look at it and pre-approve it, and then some of them go all the way up to chancellor. So there's a level of approvals of the purchases, and then from there, we're looking to determine, do you need this? Is it an emergency? And if not, I can wait or whatever. So that's kind of how it goes.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you. So on your slide number 4, oh, sorry, it's like right in my face. On your slide number 4, where you talk about the fiscal year 2027 general funding sources, would that need to include, if possible, any of the grant funds with the matching, since some of the funding that we do receive are from grants, kind of like the Heritage Park Phase 2 part? Was there also grants approved for like the walking trail too?
I don't think
and
so,
the
not
No, the walking trail didn't have a grant, but to Brittany, would you think that category that Mayor Pro Tem is talking about would fall under other revenues? I
Yeah,
think
it's
you got
either
about
other
17.5
revenues.
on the.
Yeah. The public safety revenues of loan, of course, they relate to whatever police and fire has received. But I guess that, those budgeted match transfers must make up for a smaller percent, and they're into like other revenues.
revenues. And then 2, thank you. So with the vehicles, and I don't know where that question would come from, are all the vehicles leased? Is it more cost effective to lease or to actually purchase?
Well, we're actually looking at that now, but when it comes to purchasing, we're looking at cash. So, some of the departments actually requested to purchase their vehicles, but we weren't able to fund that, and that's because we're right now going through mainly the leases. So, we are looking at, analyzing what would be more cost-effective, leases or actually buying out, or buying outright. So we have to get to that point first, that we can actually buy some first.
And then on your slide number 16, where it talks about expenditure account review, where it's talking about training, travel and training, would that be something the department heads would have to keep a track of as to who would need training within a certain set year, and then be able to provide that in the upcoming year for that person to be able to, like, so for example, if my job required that I get a certification to be a GAL, so I would expect that my department head would know, hey, Hope, you need to go over there and do that, so that it's not something that's planned but not needed. Does that make sense?
Right. So I think, Chancellor, you can chime in. I think that was a part of the initial trimming of the travel and training
That is
budget
correct.
that you guys went through, what employees needed certifications and all of that.
Initially, what we did prior to submission on April 30th was cut out all training that was not essential to your job description. So if you had certifications that were required, if you had, I gave an example at one of the budget work sessions, the Main Street Conference that Planning Department went to recently. That would not be an essential training. That's just a conference that was cut out. In terms of my trainings, I don't have any trainings directly tied to my job, so all of my entire training budget for this proposed fiscal year was eliminated. And so we did do that. I don't have an issue with going back and looking at it again because I don't think there's anything wrong with revisiting it, but we did look at what you were talking about. And so ultimately, we had the department heads submit to us a list of all the trainings that were required based on their departments to start the conversation, what you're talking about going into the next fiscal year. Have you analyze all of the training needs of your staff to see what's required, and is that covered in the requested amount? That was our central goal. But again, I don't have any problems going back through that and trying to screw up a little bit more.
So would it then be safe to say in the budget that we received, where training is indicated in the departments, those are essential trainings?
That is correct, but we're still looking to see if there's additional things that can be cut. That is correct.
Okay, and then on slide number 17, I numbered them so I can know where to go. On slide number 17, with the contracts that are combined, that's 2.2 million. Are any of those contracts able to be revisited for rebid purposes? For bid out purposes, see if we can get a different amount, or?
So we looked, that's kind of what took so long to get that, and you got it a little bit before this meeting, in the Excel. So some of those, we are looking at, putting out for more competitive pricing.
Thank you, that was it, Mayor.
Okay. Commissioner Trumbull?
Good evening.
Good
Thank
evening.
you for your presentation. It was very informative, and we have some really hard decisions coming up, and I'm aware of that. Two quick questions.
Sure.
We do have a shortfall in the fund balance of 1.2. Do we have a further shortfall to meet the 3% that we set as a policy? We want to keep 3% of the budget. Are we short more?
Yes.
How much are we short?
I don't have I'll have to
don't have
go
the
to my
numbers.
notes, but our fund balance policy required us to have X amount in that account and also keeping the budget between X amount of expenditures. And right now, we, don't meet either.
And where are we? I know that we don't have a plan yet for the 1.2. Is there a plan to make up the other shortfall? Is it somewhere in the budget that I didn't see or I'm missing it? Do you know what I'm asking? Like to meet the policy that we set?
Right, well, I'm hoping that that is our target with passing this budget this year, is that we have a plan for general fund replenishment.
Okay. Does that come from taxes or other places?
It can't, taxes is the main, the main contributor of revenue to the town.
Okay, and just one more question. On the first page where the proposed budget, the tax rate is showing 48 cents. Does that include the 5 cents for Parks and Rec, or is that 5 cents in addition?
Does the
That's in
48
addition.
include? I think it's included. I'll double back. I'll check real quick, but I think it's included.
It's
I included the
in
total
48?
tax rate, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Marley?
I don't really have many questions except for one at the end. I do have some, I guess, statements I want to make. First and foremost, I want to apologize to every employee that's sitting in on this meeting right now. When you're an employee of this town, you look at this board to make sure that you have a job and you have a livelihood. And I don't think we've done a very good job of that over the past few years. When you had to sit in here and listen to a agenda be approved with an item on it that says review of staff positions. So let me just say right now, I apologize to every town employee that's sitting in this room and every town employee that works for this town. My next one on my list is, I picked out some key terms that you said. I want to thank you for your presentation. It was very thorough. It was very informative. The way you explained everything, the PowerPoint. As far as the financial stabilization recommendation, to be honest with you, I think you hit every one of them bullet points standing up there with what you did tonight. And if the town is listening in, the town citizens, taxpayers, whoever listened to your presentation tonight, they know exactly where we're coming from. I don't think you can get more transparent than that. But I think you hit every one of them bullet points. One thing you said that the OSA requires action. That's what you said. It requires action. I want everybody to hear that. OSA requires action. Another thing that you said was temporary cuts with the current presented budget will not fix long-term problems. I think that's important. Everybody hears that as well. You said right now we have options, and you know, you didn't say this, but you said right now we have options, but I'll tell you this pretty soon. it could be a requirement where we don't have options. So we gotta be proactive on this. Mayor, something you said a while ago, I would be almost willing to add this as an item, add this presentation as an item to our 7 o'clock meeting to make sure that people who aren't tuned in at this 5 o'clock meeting can hear this presentation by our finance director. That's how much I believe in that presentation you just gave us. I think it needs to be heard again at 7 o'clock if you wouldn't mind. And the manager allows it and the board would allow it at 7 o'clock. So one of the other slides that's on here that I was reading, and I don't mean to put you on the spot. Okay, you don't have to answer this. I'll ask Chancellor. I'll put Chancellor on the spot. But when you gave the impact of the tax increases, you had 1 cent, 2 cent, and 3 cent. This slide for the 3 cent increase would offset nearly all ARPA operational dependency, reduce resilience on one-time funding, improve compliance with OSA recommendations, which is a very important part, and prepares for future budgets years to come. I think that's very important. So I honestly don't see no other way. But in your professional opinion, as the finance director of this town, and me putting all of my trust in you as our financial advisor, because that's what basically you are, as our financial advisor to this board, can we do it without a tax increase? And I want to know the truth. I want to know the hard truth. Yes or no? If we say we don't need to increase taxes, or we're shooting ourselves in the foot again. I mean, I want to be plain text here. I don't know how to be politically correct about this, but what is our only other option if we don't do it?
Are you asking me or Chancellor?
I'm asking both of you. If you want to answer it, I don't hold it against you. I need
I'll
to know
defer
the
to him
truth.
first.
As a commissioner of this town, I need to know the truth. I need to know. I need you as my financial advisor to tell me, do we need to increase the tax rate, and how much you feel like we need to? I want that answer. I don't want to beat around the bush. I don't want to tiptoe around it. We're going to have these hard conversations. We're going to have them. And I respect everybody up here on the board's decision about whether they're for it or against it. But I need to know in my mind. So moving forward through the rest of this process, I need to know in my mind, because it's your time to shine, and I trust you 100%, and I need to know.
Okay.
I'll give my answer and I'll let her chime in. And so when we met with the delegates, one of our delegates last year asked us a very specific question. When was the last time we raised our taxes? I think everybody was here. If you look at the OSA report, it says, in a nutshell, that we lowered the tax rate a little bit below the recommendation of the finance director. We also sat here and told you over the last month that we cut. Now, we're toying around with a 3 cent, 1 cent, 2 cent. We cut 10 cents worth of tax from our department's needs. Not events, not parks. We cut 12 positions. We cut requests for equipment. We cut 10 cents of tax from the needs of our departments. I don't know where we would get an additional couple $100,000 in cuts to replenish the reserves. I do not know where we get an additional on top of that, because we're talking about $300,000, $200,000. Let's just say $300,000 to go back each year to reserves. We're talking about pulling the salaries out of OSA. Pulling the salaries out of Power Bill and Stormwater. It's an additional $200,000. So in addition to cutting 10 cents of tax, I don't see where we can cut another $500,000 from this budget and still have an operational town. That's my position.
Go ahead. Let me ask you this. If this was your budget 100% and you started it from word go, You were here, I know you came in on the tail end of it, and this is probably not fair to do this to you, and I apologize, but if this was your budget and you did it from jump, from the start, what would be your recommendation to this board?
I would follow the same suit as the previous finance director that was before me. I wouldn't give it a specific maybe percent or cent increase of what I would do, but unfortunately, as I stated, it's not because we need to raise taxes to build a park or to build a splash pad. We're talking about we need funding to cover just day-to-day operations here at the town that we currently do not have. Staffing, we're doing the best that we can with that. You know, one of the first things on the chopping block there, we know it comes to their merit and their COLA, but we've already cut overtime. So they're already operating out of 10, 15-year-old vehicles that breaks down when they come from trainings and et cetera. So they have needs not only in public safety and in streets that I feel like the town isn't giving them what they need to do their jobs. So it's like, how much more can you take?
Say that again. Say that one more time, what you just said.
The town isn't giving us what we need to properly do our job
Bingo.
However, the need is still there from the community. You want clean parks. You want safe streets. You want a fire to come and department and be there within 2 to 3 minutes of responding. So these are the things that we want, and these are the things that the town needs. And like I said, we're not asking for a tax increase to cover increasing like just capital needs. We need them to operate day-to-day operations. So that's my main concern, is that if you don't do it today, I can't tell you what it'll look like 2 to 3 years from now, because it was proposed maybe a 6 cent, but if you wait and continue to hold that off, a 6 cent 2 to 3 years down the road, and then you're looking at still not having enough. So I would propose that something happens. I can't tell you an amount, but in order to keep the town of Hope Mills where I know we should be, there's going to have to be a tough decision that we have to make.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem? Commissioner Mitchell?
Thank you. Good presentation. Like the mayor said, we should have had you done this on day one, but we're here now. But I can tell you this, you are walking into what I would consider a financial perfect storm. You really are. And I know the mayor said, but how we got here, we lost $2 million, and we was told to prepare for that. We did not. We pulled $485,000 out of reserve fund 7 years ago. We never replaced that. And can go on and on. We was told every year to increase taxes. We did not. We kept kicking the can down the road. Now we're here. And unfortunately for us and all the other communities around in the state and every place else, the perfect storm came when they used an algorithm to impose property tax on everyone and boost property up. And unfortunately for us, we got hit again with unexpected expenditures. But one thing I don't want us to get in the habit of doing, which we have, I think we was going to sell a tower last year for $400-something thousand. We counted on that money. We did not get it. I hate counting for money that you don't have in your hand. If you don't have it in your hand, it don't exist. I know we talk about excess forfeitures. I worked for the government, lived in the government, breathed the government, and I have seen them tell you, well, I'm going to give you $500,000 today. And they say, you're not getting it too. And now you have another shortfall. So I think as we move forward from here on out, no matter what we do, how we do it, if we don't have the money in hand to do it, guess what? Don't do it. And we got to fix this. And we will fix this one way or another. But I will tell you also on this while I'm talking, I will not and cannot support any personnel reduction in today's climate. I just can't support it, and I will not support it. Thank you.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem?
You said two things. So the 1 point, tell me, okay, the general reserve funds, is that the 1.2?
So that's where we pulled the 1.2 from.
So that's what needs to be replenish back in the reserve fund?
Yes.
Okay, and then you said something about the 3%.
Well, we want to keep at least 3% of that, we don't want to budget any more than 3% of that appropriation. So when we go to balance the budget for the next years to come, we want to keep that at a minimum of 3% of the budget. So we don't want to budget over that. So we want to keep it at a bare minimum of
So-
pulling out of that account.
But we wouldn't pull out of the, you mean the general funds account?
Yes, the
3%
general fund
funds.
reserve. It's the same thing.
So
But when you do a general fund appropriation for your budget, it comes from your general fund reserves.
I think I'm getting confused. What's the one where the policy was put in place that those funds are earmarked, that they are not touched? What is that one?
It's not earmarked that they aren't touched. It's just that's what the account is there for. It's called your undesignated fund balance, which
That's it,
is,
fund
yes.
balance. That's the word I was looking for. the
Yes,
fund
sorry.
balance. Okay, I was like, okay, the fund balance. Okay. And then, I don't know if this would be a Mr. McLaughlin question or not. Did the previous board know about the vehicles and the need for the vehicles that was there?
That is 100% correct. It's kind of tied to what I was saying before with the budget amendments. When we found out about the SRO program, it was mid-budget year. So it wasn't like we found out about it in January and then went into a budget session and didn't budget for them. When we realized that we had to staff the school with SROs, we brokered a deal with Cumberland County Schools to get reimbursed for the salaries. We were not able to execute some type of cost to provide us with the reimbursement for the vehicles. And so every one of those police officers that we hired for SROs, it came with a vehicle, and I also expound a little bit deeper into the lease program. Typically, my understanding of the lease program, it works well when you have about 5 cars annually in that program. We dumped about another 8 on top of that. And so when you're looking at these inflated amounts, and that's one thing I hope the entire listening public is paying attention to us saying this. Everybody's saying, where did the money go? Every cent of that money went to public safety. It was done mid-year, so we couldn't budget for them, so they had to be done through budget amendments. That's exactly what happened. And the question was, do we not do anything and not protect our schools? Or do we take the tough decision to move forward with funding those expenditures? And that's basically what happened.
But the vehicles too that I'm referring to are the one Ms. McLaurin spoke about, the older ones that need repair, which is why the vehicle fleet maintenance is higher. Did the previous board know about the old ones that needed repair?
Mayor,
Go ahead, Mr. Marley.
Mayor Pro Tem, yeah, the board knew about it and previous boards before that. And that was stuff that was cut out of the budget, to be honest with you, cut out of the budget to reduce the budget so we don't have to raise taxes.
I will add too.
Once again, we keep using this term, but that was another thing in the budget that previous boards kicked down the road. Let's get another year out of these vehicles. Let's get another year out of this. Look, can we get another year out of this? Yeah, I can get another year out of it. Okay, well, let's cut it.
And I'll add to that.
That's how that happened.
I'll add to that. This year was a fleet maintenance position requested, and it was cut. It was requested last year, and it was cut. And so you got to understand the totality of this. Public Works has been asking for a system to mitigate some of these things, and we keep cutting that. I think Commissioner Mitchell talked about 3 years ago when the county and the mayors worked it out for that Avalon tax shift to happen during the reval. And we came to the board about 2 years prior asking to put some money towards reserves, and the answer was no. And so the only thing we can do is recommend, but what we're saying now is we're getting to a point where we cannot continue to delay some of these decisions.
Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem. So what he just said was several years ago, whenever they asked us to put money toward the reserves to cover that $2 million, we didn't do it because that represented a tax increase.
Right.
And nobody wanted to do that. So we're in a situation now where we're at because of those issues. It was all done to balance budgets with no tax increase.
I don't know if it was done as much to balance tax increases if it was to address reelection options. Oh, I will say it. Oh, I will. Because the year before I came in as mayor, that board should have. That board was ready. There was a mayor pro tem that sat right here, Ken Wanda McCray, that championed and knew it. And this was I'm in my third year now. Years ago, to get in front of a change of ad valorem, oh yeah, I might as well just say it. That could have been handled a heck of a lot better than it was. I said it then, I'll say it now. That should have been phased in instead of just rammed down homeowners, taxpayers, and municipalities all at one time. But I wasn't mayor then. But if I had been, I would have strongly supported phasing it in, and that's the way it should have happened. Now, you got me passionate a little bit. Now, because that didn't happen, and then you had an incident in 25 of public safety with our schools. Like Chancellor said, it was unfunded. We did 4 budget amendments. I read them here, I think, at least 2 meetings ago. I think I've read them almost every meeting. They're in my bag behind me, I think. I can pull them out. 4 of them, all public safety. One of them was a one-time cost, like we usually do, and that was the server for $300,000, one time. The rest of it, cars. Every bit of it. That, insurance, fuel, overtime, all to take care of the schools. Because we only had a short window. I don't know how many times I've explained this. I'll probably have to explain it again when the auditor comes. So we had that very short window because when we learned about this in June, right, Chancellor? It was after our budget was approved. Schools started in August. Our police chief, sitting right back here on that wall, rolled up his sleeves, and him and his entire department made this happen on his end. What this board did, what that board did was approve the funding. Well, you know what? It was a rainy day. We took it on. We could have said what? Nope, not going to do it. It's not in our budget. We're not going to do any budget amendments. Schools, you're on your own. That was the wrong decision. I stand by it then. I stand by it now. Those kids in that school are our citizens. Those teachers in the schools are our citizens. Parents are our citizens. They pay taxes too, don't they? They do. And that's a contract that is renewable each year. And Chancellor, I sent you a memo today. I talked to Kevin Coleman. Chief, you know what the answer is, that our contract with the school is still set and solid. And there's not one day that goes by or 1 week that goes by that somebody from the schools thanks us for what we're doing for the schools. That's community policing. So if we got hit, we did. But if you look at our budgets 5 years prior, you don't see 1.2 million. You see 450, 480. That's what you see. But we hit 1.2 to take care of the schools. There was no malice, no embezzlement, no somebody didn't get it. Didn't happen. All went to public safety, every penny of it. Now, before I go on, Brittany, this was excellent. I want to go back and hit some of the slides. But first, I want to read again the outgoing prior, or in this case, past finance director's email on one of his last days out of here. And this is Drew Holland. FY 26-27 budget is currently balanced in accordance with the town council's directive to avoid a tax increase. While this approach meets the immediate goal, it continues a pattern in which the operational budget is underfunded year after year. Your slides reflect that. Every one of them reflects that sentence by Drew Holland on April 29th. This practice forces us to prioritize short-term recognition over long-term stability, ultimately compromising the town's future needs. Your slides reflects that too. Looking at the sustainability going forward. Commissioner Marley says we kick the can, boards after boards after boards kick the can down the road. Well, you want to know something, folks? There is no more road. We're at the end of the road. And this can is the budget. And we're going to deal with it if it takes every Monday night of this month to adopt a budget on the 29th of June. We're going to get it right. In my professional opinion, I recommend the following adjustments. Implement a 6-cent tax increase to provide sustainable funding. Avoid using $653,000, which is one time, ARPA funds. You're right, Brittany, we won't have this next year. We will not have $653,000 next year for reoccurring expenses. Maintain street department salaries and benefits that total $232,946. I think you rounded up to 240. In the general fund, not using power fund and stormwater funds. Keep the original plan 2% COLA and 2% merit increases totaling $40,339. I got a comment about that I'm going to share with everybody. Begin replenishing the town fund balance reserves of $300,000 as advised in the state audit report. In closing, these measures will strengthen our financial position, reduce reliance on one-time funding, which is ARPA, and ensure we are responsible planning for the town's future. This was Drew's last words as he left as finance director. And it's amazing that in your 1 month being here, Brittany, you have framed every one of these sentences in every one of your slides. That's a heck of an assessment. Some folks know, or may know, when we talk about COLA, that if you're a state employee, you didn't get a COLA this year. Leanne, you know, your husband didn't get one either. We did not get a COLA this year. And I say we because I am a state employee. I work at the college. Whatever COLA we get that's approved by the General Assembly will be effective 1 July. I want everybody in this room to know that. We didn't quit our jobs. We didn't stop doing our jobs. We continued serving. But we did not get a COLA this year. None. And I'm just going to share that. I'm not angry or frustrated because it didn't happen. General Assembly still hasn't approved a budget. Still hasn't. But I just wanted everyone to know that. Brittany, back up your slides, please. I think we might get the contracts, but we might not get anything else. I want to pull some numbers, Brittany, to make sure that we're on point. what's before this board.
You know what slide you want?
Keep going. I'll stop you.
Okay.
Go slow, though. Right there. Back up. I just talked about that one, about me as a state employee. But there's maybe some recommendations that we can play around with COLA and merit. I don't know, but it's going to be a discussion of what we look at because of some funding. There is going to be some discussion about this. This may be a one-time thing that we may have to make some hard decisions. And I'm just going to put it out there. I'm just going to put it out there.
No merit.
That there is a option that I guess I'm the one that said it along with a couple others, that to look at a 3% COLA, 0 merit, and equity. And what those numbers would look like if we looked at that model. So if you want to pin it on somebody, pin it on me. But the board will have to decide if that is the model that we're going to look at, because Brittany's got to run the numbers to see exactly where we are, if we use that model. So I'm not going to ask the board right now if that's what they want to do, but it's going to have to be a discussion, and it's going to have to be a decision, because Brittany's got to know she needs the direction. Part of what we're doing right now is providing her direction, because she is going to have to implement this budget along with this board. So we're going to do this together. On this one? Yeah. Okay, yeah. Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, thank you. Does the current budget include the merit?
Yes.
And how much is the merit in the current, is that it, right there?
Yes.
What you said, 2.5? And the COLA is 1.5? I thought, didn't Drew, pass his email, did it say it had a merit in there?
Yep.
It was, the current one is 2 and 2, and what the proposed one is 1.5 and 2.5. In his email, he's recommended to go back to 2 and 2.
Okay, I thought it was different numbers.
Yeah.
I will say that change from down to 1.5 and up to 2.5 did yield 40,000 in savings. And so that's why he said that if you go back to 2 and 2, it's something about when the COLA kicks in July and the merit kicks in March. Playing with those numbers did yield 40,000 in savings, which is why he put in his email, if you go back to 2 and 2, it does create about 40,000 in costs.
But if we were to use the 3, 0 merit and equity, that would be a significant savings.
That would have to be another calculation, and it would yield some type of savings. And that's my point, where you can play. When I said in one of the work sessions, you can get creative at balancing it. And I think I should let Brittany explain this a little bit better than any of us. But I do think if that's where you're going towards a 3-0, I think she can kind of calculate what that would look like.
Well, Leanne will probably be able to weigh in on that too, because that came from her as well.
Would we be able to do, since that totals 4, what would be a 2 COLA and a 1 merit? So the total is 3% for the year, effective July 1. So you're still giving merit because people have worked, they have earned, they have certifications, they have done things, and then you're still giving a COLA at 2%. So you're not zeroing out merit completely, because some people have made changes and completed things based on that. So I don't know what the board would recommend, but my thought process would be 2 and 1.
Yes, ma'am, I'm a little bit tougher.
Go ahead.
Look.
Put yours out there.
Yes.
I mean,
My recommendation
this
would
is the
be,
time to talk about it.
what is the state giving for merit this year? I always went, federal government, they don't never give merit?
No,
Okay,
no merit.
All right, well, all right, that's good.
No.
Take care of that then. All right. 2%, no merit, or the merits are based on one's overall performance, and everybody don't get merit across the board. I spoke out against it when I was on board last time, and I will speak out against it again. You know, to arbitrarily just give merits because you come to work every day, I don't think so, you know. No, but this my, you know, I mean, because considering our present climate right now, and we're at a place now where we are actually financially sick. We got to get well, and in order to get well, we're gonna have to make some tough choices and tough cuts, and everybody's gonna have to get some if we're gonna survive this and get to where we need to be.
Yep.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Commissioner Marley?
so we've heard three different options. When are we gonna see when can we see numbers of what each one of those options represent?
I can provide the numbers once I figure out how many scenarios
We've
I'm
heard
being
three
presented
different,
with.
we've heard three, I mean, we've discussed three different scenarios,
Yeah.
I guess. Can you run numbers on that?
I sure
How long
can.
does that take?
I can have them for you in the morning, if you just give me maybe before lunch.
We'll give you to 8:30.
Today? 8:30 today? Okay. Oh, how about 8:30 today?
Tonight, right?
Well, tonight?
I saw that,
Okay, I can go to my office as soon as I finish up here. But I want to make sure that I have,
Yes, I do.
I have a 3% COLA, 0 merit, a 2% COLA, a 1% merit. Was there another one?
Don't forget
2%.
equity.
No merit.
2% no merit.
Leanne, you want to come up and just hit this with Brittany? She's going to come up and explain this piece.
So I'm gonna revisit 2% no merit, 3% COLA, no merit and equity, and then a 2% COLA and 1% merit?
Yes, sir.
That's what it is.
Okay.
1% merit, right?
1% merit, yeah, go ahead,
So the,
and go into the equity piece.
okay, so I looked at our full compensation, right? To look at all the different buckets of where we pull money. And one thing I do want to clarify, Mayor Pro Tem, is the merit is not include certifications or things that people got. That is its own separate bucket. So, and to Commissioner Mitchell's point, it does tend to always just be you either get it or you don't. There's been no real strong performance review process, so that's something else that we need to look into. But the recommendation was that you have to focus primarily on COLA first. That applies to everybody, and that is to keep up with the cost of bills. I mean, our employees have to feed their families and things like that. COLA should always be the priority, so especially in these tight funding years, that should always be our focus. So if you have to cut in other areas, then that's where we're making it up. The next would be merit. And then I suggested 2 buckets because we don't currently budget for retention or equity adjustments or anything like that. And we also don't budget for the certifications. And most departments, they don't include that in their budget. So I think that my recommendations or my estimate numbers, which are not Brittany's numbers, which are the final numbers, I recommended doing like a 0.2% of the total salaries, which gives us about, I think it was like $25,000, so that we have that, and then we can actually manage those processes. When someone gets an increase, we can say, well, we have a bucket of money to pull that from, and then it'll be first come, first serve, and then if it needs to be moved to the next year, or if equity needs to be adjusted for the people here and there, we can do that without extending our budget even further. Does that answer your question? Equity is for your adjustments. So periodically, in between your 5 years when you typically do your pay studies, you want to keep an eye on internal equity, making sure that you're not bringing in your new hires too close to your existing staff that have more experience and things like that. So it shouldn't be, if you're doing it correctly and you're doing your pay study every 5 years and you're keeping up with your COLAs, you shouldn't have to do a lot of that. So that bucket is just there, like I said, $20,000, $25,000 to help with that. But you have to budget for it. Otherwise, we can't give increases for certifications and we can't give increases for people who are being underpaid. So
My recommendation would be take away the increases of the bucket for certifications and put it under merit. That would be my recommendation, because what,
The reason to separate it is because not every department has, it's not, you can't budget for each department. It's not, you'd have to find, I don't know how to explain it, like,
every department doesn't need any sort of, like, your department, wouldn't your department need HR certifications? To be up to date on certain OSHA laws and all that stuff like that?
that's not what we mean by, like, degrees and things like that. Like, that's what we're talking about, like, things that are additional.
I think what the HR director is saying is, in addition to your COLA and your merit, our policy says that if you get a degree, it's a 5% increase. If you get a certification, it's a 5% increase. We were talking about, we're working through that now, Brittany, Leanna and I, because right now, if you get a CDL license and you get a master's degree, those are two completely far end spectrums, but the policy only says 5%. So if you develop that in some kind of way, tweaking it, whether it's percentage based or not, it's really a cost savings over time, because you be giving 5% to somebody that should really get 1% based on that type of certification. So these are all separate, completely separate from your merit and your COLA. That's currently in the personnel policy. We're just trying to update that, but that is a completely separate funding source, and by putting regulations in place where it's budgeted, it ensures that if someone gets some kind of certification during the year, the kind of ideas we're coming up with is you wouldn't get that increase until it was budgeted in the next fiscal year.
So for example, this year, we're not putting anything in that certification budget because any certifications earned in this coming fiscal year won't take effect till July 1 of next year. So they actually get budgeted in next year. So we always know in advance what that is, instead of doing it piecemeal throughout the year and not knowing for certain if we have the funds or not.
So what is merit then? What is merit?
Merit's just like your performance review, so that's performance.
Okay.
Exceeds. If you exceed, or if you meet, I don't think you get any merit, but if you exceed.
It's meet or don't meet at this point. That's
Yeah.
really what, and
So
in
basically,
the 2 years I've been here, no one's not met it.
so it's the quality of being good, important, or deserving of praise, reward, or attention. Wouldn't that lean to certifications?
That's not how it works in compensation strategy. I get what you're saying with the definition, but
Yeah, because I
a
mean,
merit is your performance review, so that should be different for everyone. It should be people meeting, there'll be people exceeding, and it should kind of end up on a bell curve if you're doing your performance reviews right.
well, then that would be 2% COLA, 0 merit.
Yeah, we're back to it.
Additional or replacing?
Now we're back to, I
That
feel,
is
oh
not
yeah,
what merit means.
that is not.
2% COLA, 0 merit.
And I will say, I haven't calculated anything, other than what was proposed in the budget. And that's just because, like I said, my priority at this point, I feel like is focusing on the replenishing of the fund balance reserve. So I haven't calculated anything, but I can get these numbers back.
Okay, just so everyone knows that our surrounding municipalities, when we talk about COLA, the county's proposed to 2%. Spring Lake, 2.5%. And the city, 4%. Just so everybody knows what our surrounding neighbors are proposing for COLA. That's why when I looked at these three numbers and I made a suggestion that we go with 3 for COLA, 3% COLA, 0 merit, and equity adjustment for this year. Now that's one option. The other option is what, 2 and 0 merit? Are you good with equity?
I didn't get a percentage for equity. I didn't hear a number.
0.2. So is that the other option that we want Brittany to look at? So we're now to 2 options. 2 options. One's the 3% COLA, the other one's 2% COLA. No merit in both, equity in both. Those are your 2 options. I would like to remind folks that, and Chancellor, you know where I'm about to go, that in years past, when budgets were approved, COLA's increases didn't begin until 1 January. Oh, yes.
I think one year we cut it in half and then
Oh,
offset
yes.
it to January, but
And
that wasn't something
I'm
that
not
was
gonna
popular.
I'm not gonna tap myself, but Chancellor and I looked at each other and said, that ends. When I came in as mayor, that ended. It did. We got rid of this 1 January. I mean, come on, you lose a half a year to get COLA in 1 January. No, you're gonna get it all in 1 July, and we're gonna budget that way. And that's what we did. I just kinda wanted to bring that back a little bit. But anyway, moving on, Brittany, because, well, we still got time. Wait a minute, back up. All right, there's the 240. Okay, so if everybody's got a scorecard together, you know, that's 240,000. Keep going. I want to add the numbers. I'm looking for a couple more. Well, when we get to the police officers, I think that was 4 something. Where they're frozen.
Oh, I think that was at the beginning.
4 something.
Oh, wait, sorry.
Yeah. Oh, there it is, right there. 455. Okay, so
And that's the breakdown of it. It's actually police and fire.
yeah, that's that's frozen positions. So we're at 240,000. We're at 455, right? So we're at 695 already. And that doesn't even count the 1.2. Not at all. We're at, so
Mayor.
where are we gonna, or the 3%?
And that's 1 million right there. Wow.
Mayor,
Commissioner Marley?
we're not even including all the other departments that have requested personnel too. I mean, that's just frozen positions. We're not even looking at the requested positions that every department in this town has requested.
So we see at the
That's
bottom,
not
we
being
had 11 new positions requested for a total of 971,000. And we didn't fund, in the proposed budget, any of those.
So I guess I say that, Mayor, I'm sorry, Mayor, can I speak?
No, that's okay. Now, I wanted to highlight the 455,000 out of public safety. That's frozen, that's essential. And then the streets, 240,000. We still don't have an amount on the 3. So that's kind of the scorecard of where we are. We're at a balanced budget right now at 22.5 at 48 cents. But it doesn't include any of this. It does not include, and am I leaving out anything else?
No, but Mr. Mayor, while you're looking, can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
Every position is now essential, especially considering the fact that for years we kicked it, as you said before, we kicked the can down the road. We done ran out of road.
We are out of road.
We are totally out of road now. And like I said earlier, we are financially sick. And we got to come up with the proper treatment and medication to make us well again. And as we said earlier, hard choices are going to be required, hard decisions will be made, and we are not going to be able to make everybody happy. And like I said last week, was it last week before last? Everybody's going to have to get some. Everybody. We're going to have to take the heat because the man that stood up there and said to us, I didn't ask y'all to run for office, but you're here now. It is your problem, your decision, and his last words were what? Y'all need to fix it. So, and we're going to fix it. We're going to fix it. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. So if I add this up, and I don't even know what the 3% amount is, but the streets is 240, the public safety positions are 455, and then if we just go minimum to repay the general fund, let's just say 200,000. That comes up to $900,000 right now. That's not in this budget. That's not in this balanced budget. That's 900,000. So, to get them into this budget, this board is going to have to either find 900,000 through cuts, sharpen your knives, or increase the revenue sources. That's the only choice that we have. It's one or the other. But there's 900,000 that's not in this budget.
900,000 is roughly 5 cents.
And so we can go to your tax slide.
Yes, sir.
And Commissioner Marley, you kind of got ahead of me because I wanted to go.
Sorry about
Yeah, no, you're tracking it the same way I am, right? Is that it? It's in the back. Yeah. Yeah, there it is. That's the 1 cent.
Well, all the cents are broken out on the side of each one.
1 million. See, so that's kind of where I'm at now on my scorecard. It's 900,000 that we have to find between now and 29 June. That's kind of where we are, board, in a snapshot. That's kind of where we're at. Okay. All right, Brittany, continue on to item B. We're finally there. Review of current professional services and town contracts.
So I know the workbook came out a little bit late. I don't feel like you guys probably got enough time to really review it like you would want to.
Did we get it?
Yes, it's
Oh,
in an
can you print
email.
it? Can you print it?
Well, it's a lot. It was a lot of pages, but I can make sure we get it printed if you want it to have before you leave tonight. Yeah, so it's a spreadsheet that I created by department that has all of the contracts, their contract date, and end date if it was known, and if it's a reoccurring contract, the amount that we've expended in that contract as of when we ran numbers, and then the estimated budget that they're requesting for 26, 27. It's also in there if it's a new contract that is just initiating in the new budget as well. So I think just to give everyone time to really look at that and review it, I think we can print some in between the sessions, and then I can bring the copies back for each department.
I got an idea, Brittany. I'm gonna ask the board. We can either do one or the other. We can recess right where we are and come back after our regular meeting, or we can have a special meeting at 6 o'clock next Monday before our public hearing at 7. It's up to what you guys wanted. Y'all want to do it tonight, or you want to do it a week from tonight and allow her to print them off and give them to us and have a week to look at them?
Here's a question. Mr. Mayor. The other week you said that you would be looking at all contracts, coming back to us with a plan of action to ensure that we are getting the best bang for our buck, and as well as a quality control, competitive bidding process. Mm-hmm. Now, are we ready to talk about that now, or would you need more time?
Well, I don't think I need more time. I think the board may need more time to review the contracts from each department and then make a determination of if you consider it to be something that they need, or if you have questions for why we need that contract. I provided the summary by departments to show what departments have some of the heaviest town contracts, and providing a summary to what they were. Some of the contracts, unfortunately, we won't be able to review or assess.
Okay.
For example, sanitation has $955,000 worth of contracts. However, they're all related to waste management and recycling. So I propose that you look at maybe some of our public safety contracts, but that would be the determination of the board of which ones you pick to look at.
Here's my question to you and every department head. Being a former senior manager working in corporate, I've never told my department what they needed to do their jobs. They are requesting the contracts. It's their contracts. If they cannot come before this board and tell us that they need a contract and show us the advantage to the town and how we save money, I cannot support a contract of that nature. They have to be convinced us that it's, and then you are the experts.
Mission essential.
You have to tell us that this is why we need this contract and it's the best bang for our buck. If you can't do that, don't waste my time.
Mayor and board, I will propose, the 6 o'clock work session on Monday. That allows you guys time to digest the excess spreadsheet you got today, ask us questions prior to Monday. And that allows us to possibly talk to the department heads to prioritize these contracts to see which ones are mission critical.
Put it out there. That's why I put the two options out there, Commissioner Hamilton.
Ms. McLaurin, I have a question. Are these going to be contracts and/or contract services?
It's both.
Okay, and the contracts, will they be recurring contracts?
That's identified in the spreadsheet as well. Some contracts aren't reoccurring, some of them are.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
That's why I asked the board, we have two options. I can recess tonight and come back, or we can digest over the next week, get back together, get the band back together at 6 o'clock next Monday. Commissioner Marley?
Mayor, I would say, come back next Monday, because we still don't know those figures she's gonna run, for the COLA, and, the item D on here is a budget recap, so once we get all that information, we got the contracts, we can come back and actually do item D, and so you want me to make a motion? Or do I need
Well,
to make a motion?
the question will be, do we want to come back at 5 or 6?
Consensus, yes.
What's the consensus for next, because the public hearing's at 7, and that's fixed. So do we want 5?
Are we considering, I know you're considering item B, which is the contracts. Are you considering the staff positions as
Yes.
well?
We're going to keep
That same night,
the same night,
both of them?
both of them.
Okay.
I think we're gonna need time, because
5.
I think 5 would be,
5 good?
it's close to 5, because we're gonna need some time before that public hearing.
Well, that's the reason why tonight we've run out of time. 5:30? Yep, that gives an hour and a half. So tonight, we didn't get to item B, which was review of the current professional services and town contracts, but there is an Excel spreadsheet that was sent to the board, and the board will have the opportunity to digest that and probably raise some questions between now and Monday. Review of staff positions, budget recap, all three of those items will be moved to 5:30 next Monday, which is June 8th. Is that the consensus of the board? Do I need make a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second? Motion.
Second.
I've got a motion, got a second, all in favor? Seeing none opposed, motion carries. We will continue with a new special meeting. This is not a recess. It will be a new special meeting at 5:30 next Monday. Staff comments?
We're good.
And just for everyone's information, Brittany's going to do part 2 of her presentation. We're going to add it into the 7 o'clock session. So those that didn't get it the first time, well, we'll go through it again.